You worked on the fence tonight.
Where's the semi for the truck? Storage unit space. Wanted to get it done tonight, but do it tomorrow night. As long as it's still standing. Put enough screws in it, but yeah.
We just did those 6 papers last night, just to place it with the grill.
It was nice, yeah.
Just the
I
stairs.
tried my music was loud. My music was bumping.
I had my own music, you can hear it over here.
You coming Friday or not?
Next Friday?
Yeah.
Birthday party. Lisa?
I told him my commute's too far.
Just to be able to make it home.
That's right.
I could fall over.
I'm sending out messages.
You're not sitting down yet, Steve.
I can't? Is that the president there?
That's where,
We don't know where to sit yet.
I know it's.
How you doing?
borrowed all week. Emails.
A few,
Just got over a few changes.
yeah.
Mr. Johnson. Whose seat is this right now?
Eric.
Eric. Olson, where is he?
Not here.
He's not here. All right. Well, to heck with him then. What's that? Oh, were you gonna swear him in? Huh? Okay. Is there walking down the sidewalk?
I just do it all through. Oh.
Yeah, no, right.
So how do you do this? Do you read it to him? I think we could, can't you just hand it to him and have him read it? I'll read it.
Whatever you want to do.
I'll give you.
Make him bow before you just swore.
I should have a bigger ring. Does anybody have a large ring? Well, who would preside if Eric wasn't here.
He'll be here in 2 minutes.
Oh, he's coming. Okay, good. Then I'll relinquish his.
Playing musical chairs.
Just getting out of Eric's chair. He's the president.
Not as bad as others. I haven't worked on it.
You got, you're busy this weekend too.
Yeah, we'll start at 9. So by the time.
I'm thinking you're right. It's gonna be, I'm just thinking, want to swing by.
So.
Day shift.
Oh. It is, what are you doing? You gotta do it, that's right. There you go.
This is the, this is from yesterday. It's just printed on
That's what it's all about, that's where the money, baby.
Busy.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you want to.
Where do I sit?
We all got mics.
Yeah, make sure the mic's around now. Whoever wants to.
I guess we just need to know like call me to order of the 5 of you. Take charge.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order.
All right, would you like me to deliver the oath to Rod?
Yes, I guess we are swearing in Rod. Congratulations, Rod.
Thank you.
All right.
Am I supposed to stand?
We'll swear you in.
Okay,
I don't know if you should raise a hand.
I will.
Okay.
If you'd like me to, I will.
I, Rod Johnson,
I, Rod Johnson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully
and discharge faithfully
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Planning and Zoning Commission,
of Planning and Zoning Commission,
member of the City of Harmony, Minnesota,
a member of the City of Harmony, Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, new generations?
Yeah, so,
Sorry, I don't really
yeah,
know what's
it's-
going on here, but.
so Greg, you want to explain what's going to happen there?
Sure. In the packet, there are a couple of letters, and the relevant, I think the best way to describe why this is at your attention is back when the antique mall, that's what we're talking about, the antique mall, New Generations of Harmony was developed, they included with that building an apartment for the owners to live in. And living in the industrial park was a special exception, as it was previously written in our own ordinance, or as we call it nowadays, a conditional use. So the city at that time approved that living quarters as a conditional use under those circumstances. Mainly that it was the owner operator living there as opposed to being rented out to the general public. I understand there's been a recent change or desires to be a change. It's Harlan and Joan previously have currently do own it and have previously lived there, and their daughter Erica is looking to operate the facility of the business instead. And so before us is basically, I think they're just looking for the city's blessing to say that still fits within within the conditions that were a part of that original establishment, and that the city approves of her taking their place as the operator and living in those living quarters. So again, it's not reinventing the wheel, starting from scratch necessarily, but instead just I see it as blessing that as still meeting spirit and intent of the conditions that were set at that time.
So you just want a motion on this to accept what the city come up with?
Yep, so you'd just be making a motion and a second and vote to the city council, whatever your recommendation would be.
I'll make the motion to accept this.
Second.
Motion and a second, is there any discussion?
Well, I got a question. When somebody else wants to build another prior building and want to live in it, you allow that to happen?
If somebody else wanted to live in a building in the
In
industrial park,
the commercial industrial park?
yeah, they'd have to apply to the city under the conditional use permit rules. So that'd come up to you guys and through the council to consider on a case-by-case basis. So the way the ordinances are written now, it is allowed with that review process.
Other discussion? Questions? We ready to vote? So the recommendation is to continue the process. Is that correct, Miles? Just want to make sure I
Yes.
have your motion correct.
Yes.
Okay, so we're recommending to continue the existing arrangement. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Nay.
Opposed?
Oppose.
Chair abstains. So motion, recommendation carries. Okay, next it says public hearing on CUP for Overland Engineering.
Yeah, so now we will take public comment for the conditional use permit for Overland Engineering for the retail variety, a retail variety store, right?
Yeah, did you want to start with public comment or have a presentation of the application first?
Let's have a presentation of the application first from the Overland Group or the attorney here present for them. Yep.
Good evening, Commission. My name's Adam Ripple, attorney with Rankin Newell Offices. Our office represents Overland Group, which is a developer company for Dollar General stores throughout the country. This is a request for a conditional use permit to redevelop a former restaurant site. You have on the screen a relatively recent site plan that has been, there are some changes that I'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah. Commission, you do have the most recent drawings in front of you on the
Okay, great.
on the paper. It should be the attachments. Not in the packet, it's be right next to the packet. That's the most recent drawings that we just got this morning.
So originally, the plan was to redevelop the site with the existing accesses in place as they are today. However, MnDOT, in the process of reviewing this, has required the closure of the north entrance. And so that has created kind of a whole chain of dominoes to fall. So this site is rather unique in that it's encumbered with an access easement for the property owner to the south, along the south side of the property, as well as an access easement for the property owner to the west that runs along the north side of the property. There's also a billboard present on kind of the northeast corner. So with the closure of that access by MnDOT has required reconfiguration of the site. The access easement to the south would remain. And over the last couple of days, we've been working with Mr. Davis, the property owner to the west, to essentially create an alternate access to his property. His only point of access is across the proposed site. And so because of the restriction with the closure, the plan would be to instead connect that to Wicket Drive. And there's where some of the back and forth has come in, and there's some changes to the site plan. So there is public right-of-way for Wicket all the way down to the northern property line, although the road itself is not fully constructed all the way there. There's some significant grade change from the northwest corner of the Dollar General site down to Wicket Drive. There's also a number of overhead utility poles, as well as I think it's a storm sewer manhole just over the property line. And so over the last day or so, Overland Group has been working with the Fisher family, who is the kind of last residential property on Wicket to the north, as well as Mr. Mr. Davis and his attorney. So the plan in front of you has a bit different grade, as well as the construction of a stormwater catch basin to the south of the Fisher driveway, which is kind of uphill. And the plan would be that that would collect and catch any storm water so that there is no flooding concerns for water coming down that access into the Fisher driveway. And that underground pipe would then cross under Wicket and connect to existing stormwater infrastructure kind of north of the site. In addition to some of the constraints, so there's requirements to treat stormwater now that don't exist on the existing facility. And when we redevelop, we have to put all that in. And so we have this kind of shrinking of the developable footprint. And so we do not have complete agreement from Mr. Davis on some of the slope, but I think we're awfully close. I know he's here and his attorney is as well. My understanding is we have agreement from the Fishers that their driveway concerns, both the slope and the drainage, have been addressed in this plan. The plan would be that this infrastructure work would be undertaken by Dollar General on their dime to reconfigure that access for Mr. Davis, as well as extend that small portion of Wicket to the property line. I think those are the primary concerns, but one additional item, really not related to the site itself, but this new access, is that Mr. Davis has heavy equipment, and the city has a truck route designation process in your ordinance. And so appropriately so, Mr. Davis wants some assurance that Wicket Drive is a truck route and that he would actually be able to drive his equipment through that new access. If not, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of everything. So that's something, and I know Mr. Davis is here, but it's something that's kind of the linchpin of this being able to go forward, because there's really not a feasible way to otherwise provide access to the Davis property. Happy to answer any questions about the site plan or the work we've been doing with the property owners.
I have a question. I have a question about the water flow and the pipe and where that is going to be placed and how far is that? You're talking about directing the water from Dollar General's lot out into the open area? Is that what you're talking about?
There is a pond and there is an overflow that discharges to the public property where there's stormwater infrastructure in place. Do you have this?
I'd have to send it to myself.
I have a corresponding question with that. Is it all right for me to speak
Probably
as a
not.
citizen?
And it's hard to distinguish the roles in this setting. If it could, you could probably ask the questions at the council meeting. It
Yeah,
would be fine,
I'd wait
but-
for the council.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to be safe.
The city engineer has looked at these plans, and the city engineer had no concerns about any of the infrastructure that was within the plans, whether it be the drainage or the road. He'd only request that the road is make sure that he is overseeing the project to make sure it's done to city specifications.
And just to clarify the request, understanding Mr. Davis's concerns with access and the fact that we're still kind of ironing out the finer points of that, Overland would be satisfied with some sort of approval that was conditioned upon entering into a written agreement with Mr. Davis. Obviously, access is paramount, and we certainly acknowledge that.
And that grade plan you have is the second grade plan. There was one earlier this week that was sent to us. The one in your packet is the most recent one. Once again, Brad Grabau, the city engineer, has looked over that, and he does think that driveway would be appropriate.
Is the part that connects Wicked Drive to the Dollar General property or Overland Group property, is that going to be concrete or blacktop?
My understanding is that would be concrete. And so that area, just to be clear, is solely for the purpose of access to the Davis property. There's no, Dollar General customers or trucks will not use that area.
Yeah, and MnDOT made it clear that that stretch can never connect to the parking lot. MnDOT said that cannot be a through street.
Are there other questions from the public?
Mr. Chair, I would just ask the ability to speak at the end if there are any other items to address after the public comments.
Certainly. Thanks.
I do have a question, I guess. I'm Chris Morrison on the other side for the easement. And on Tuesday, we received papers from Jonathan Boomer of a purchase and sale contract that they want us to sign, and we're not signing it. So I don't know if that's gonna put things into perspective differently, because everything on our end was good till I got the papers Tuesday. So I don't know if that puts another bolt anchor into things.
I know nothing about that.
Quite honestly, I'm not aware of that either. So Dollar General has right away for real estate folks. That's not me, but happy to talk to you afterwards.
So, good.
I'd like to speak on behalf of Mr. Davis at some point here.
Certainly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Bart Seebach. I'm
local attorney here and came to speak on behalf of Tom Davis. Tom has, and his father before him, have been driving across a straight line across the north end of that parking lot on the north side of Wheelers there and whatever was before Wheelers for 46 years. And they have a written easement that was described to you, I think, by Mr. Schieber. They also have, along with the agreement of the previous owners, not actually followed the written easement, but they've kind of angled down to that north entrance, still in a straight line, but angling a little bit to the south for all that period of time. So that's why you see a sign, signboards built up there and that actually are in the written easement. Because
here's the one you're talking
yeah,
about.
that's right. And the red lines there are Tom's drawing of what he's actually been using and how it, he drew that on top of the Dollar General plan. So, I mean, the Wheelers Bar and Grill property isn't in exactly the same location, but they've been clearing the snow and using and running heavy equipment across there consistently for many decades. And that's an easement. It's just not written. And so those are the rights that Mr. Davis has right now to use this property. And he's not happy about giving them up. But he has been trying to work with Dollar General on this, with the Overland Group. I don't think we've actually heard from anybody at Dollar General. We notified First Southeast Bank, which currently owns the property, and I know they forwarded a letter from me back in February on to somebody probably at the Overland Group. So they've known about it that long, really only in the last week, less than a week, since Monday this week, have we had significant conversations about the legal aspects of this, right? Because those easements that exist for in Mr. Davis's favor need to be dealt with. We haven't heard anything from MnDOT that says that the north entrance can't be maintained for Mr. Davis's use, but then MnDOT hasn't been answering phone calls this week either. And so I think Mr. Davis probably has rights to use that north access. Early on, he talked with somebody from MnDOT who said, we won't close that if it's your only access. So I think there's probably an option there if this Wicket Drive proposal doesn't work, but MnDOT has left us kind of dangling in the wind on that. So I've been working with Mr. Ripple over the last 3 days, and that's why you've got a different plan in your packets today from the one that's up on the screen there, is because we got a new one just today trying to address some of the neighbors' concerns and ours. So things have been changing quite a bit. The application that you got that's in front of you doesn't even mention our easement, Tom's easement. So I think it was defective in that respect, but obviously we've been talking with the affected parties about that easement for a while. So we're not happy about this, but we think something can be worked out. And it's going to depend on whether the city puts in a truck route there, because right now, based on what I just told you or what you read, and what you read from the city attorney, Tom has secure access to Highway 52, and he's going to be giving that up if he goes out through Wicket Drive. Not only does he have to take a tractor trailer and other large equipment around about a 270-degree turn out of his garage, which you can't see on this picture off to the west, to get out up Wicket Drive there, but he's got to go up and down a grade to get in and out Wicket Drive that he doesn't have to deal with currently. So it's not optimal, but he doesn't want to. This is a business for him, so he's not here to make a political point one way or the other, but it's a business decision. So we've told Mr. Ripple that, and we've told the city that we need a truck route designation. We don't want we don't want any unsecure access. We don't want the public to think that he shouldn't be driving his equipment through that neighborhood. And so we need that. That's one of the things that we would require in order for Tom to give his approval to this. And we also need time to work out the details on how we give up the existing easements and what we get in return from the Overland Group here. There just hasn't been enough time this week to figure out all those details. But we have been working diligently, and I appreciate Mr. Ripple's working with me. We also told Overland Group that it was important to Tom that the neighbors up Wicket Drive there are okay with this. We haven't talked with Nadine Fisher's son, Tony. Nadine's 92 years old, I think I heard. And her son has been talking with Tom about this, at least did last weekend. And so we don't know for a fact from Tom's or my own conversations whether or not Tony and Nadine are okay with this change, but it appears that they might be. There's been an attempt in the plan that you have in front of you today to flatten the access from their driveway out onto the road. That has consequences, of course, for Tom's, because anything you do that makes the grade any steeper means that he's got to have grading done up to his property, differently from what you would have seen on the plans you already looked at. So we have some details to work out. So we would be, Tom would find it possible to reach an agreement with the Overland Group here, but we're going to need a little bit of time to do that. And so I agree with Mr. Ripple that if the conditional use permit gets issued, it needs to be contingent on Tom approving a permanent agreement with Overland Group on terms that he accepts, and it needs to be contingent on that truck route. So and on the neighbor's approval. Okay. And anything else, Tom? What I missed?
Well done.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I appreciate the chance to talk to you. And if you have questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
And once again, I talked to Brett about Wicket. He believes that the amount of traffic that Tom uses in a year would be so we could label that a truck route for Tom. If he had pull-up level trucks going through, he didn't think it would work, but for a few times a month, he would not see any issue with that road.
No, that's an issue. Sit down and see how old I am. At some point, this property is going to change hands. And if I can't sell it to somebody that can use it.
But if it's designated truck route, it would have to be, when we improve it, it'd have to be up to that standard too.
So, I mean,
Yeah, so once we designate the trucking route, we have to keep it to that standard.
Okay, so my understanding from what you just said, Devin, is that it's not restricted to low use truck route. It could be, the use could be increased.
It could be, yeah.
Okay.
Because that road will be eventually soon fixed up too.
Anything else for me? Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm Dave Dooley. Within the easement area of Mr. Davis, the city also has a utility easement. Tom's easement is 20 feet, your city has 10 feet. So we're talking about 10 feet that comes into play that is an overlapping easement area. Is that then in the consideration of what the city is looking at, saying, wait a minute, now we've got an easement that you just put new poles in there, so I'm pretty sure you would keep it. So is that one of the considerations that has been discussed on the city part of it? Wait a minute, what about our easement?
Answer that question.
Sure. I guess, I don't know if it's been talked about explicitly, maybe implicitly, or maybe it hasn't been, because the proposed development may not conflict with that staying as it's been, is my assumption. So, no, I'm not aware of that being discussed.
It
I
hasn't.
don't know, Devin, do you know if the engineer?
At this point, it has not become an issue that we're worried about.
I guess the only scenario where it would be more of an issue is if there was a scenario where Tom was restricted to his 20-foot easement and had to stay within that, then there's stuff like a hydrant that would be in the way along the highway.
So is Moore Drive a truck route?
It's a classification designation that we have to give.
Is Enterprise Drive a truck route? How do they get in from the other side over there with,
Minowa.
yeah,
Minowa drives through
to the other side of Wicket?
through the north side of Wicket.
Is that a truck route?
It handles their traffic. Okay.
Is it designated a truck route?
No, it's not, but we can designate that whole stretch as a truck route.
What's required for truck route designation?
It's
I
in our,
assume there's some kind of.
it's in our planning and
engineering
zoning.
So there's an ordinance on topic. To make something a truck route, the city council would pass a resolution. Simple as that.
standard. Okay, but then presumably there'd be some cost to make sure the roadbed can handle that.
Yeah, I suppose that just comes down to a long-term maintenance issue and the city deciding how, when and how to improve streets. You'd probably do more on a truck route than you would a normal city street.
Okay.
But the act of making it a truck route, I guess, doesn't trigger any requirement that you roll out there with the paver right away. I'm sure it would just be
Okay.
something dealt with.
Yeah, 'cause
during the
that-
cycle.
The stretch, the north side of Wicket where Minowa is, we just redid that whole stretch right there. And it was built the way we've built rest of the roads in our city. And that can handle Minowa's huge trucks. So I have no problem about, and no, I have no concerns about the road.
All the way to Warren Drive?
Yep. Oh, the new section was not that far. The new section chopped off at the vet clinic up there.
Other comments from the public?
Yeah, any other comments from public who came?
Yeah, right here, Rick Minzig, I live down there in 140 Wicket. And getting back to that water situation, the storage pond, holding pond they were talking about, is that the one behind Blooming's out there? No.
No, that's the one. It's in the city lot there by the garden center.
Storage.
It's not a pond, it's a low spot in the, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
So then that water's gonna go through that culvert underneath the street, down through the lawn, all of it from Dollar General and right. And what the problem is, it's going right down through my backyard. And got along good for all these years, but I've got a hole starting. The water ain't going down to that pond behind Brony's anymore. Like maybe a sinkhole. I'm gonna have to put a fence around it.
Maybe put that one back up so you can see it.
The new one?
Yep.
I don't have the new one in the packet. Here.
So that is where all the water's gonna go there.
On that city lot right there. And like I said, the city engineer has looked at these plans and has had no concerns with the drainage.
The city lot is between the greenhouse and the existing Wheelers.
Yep.
And that comes in the culvert between us and Dick and Lisa Phone, and then through our backyard, their yard, our backyard, Gunderson's backyard. It doesn't stop at this pond you're talking about.
Okay.
Go ahead, Leon.
I'm Rick's neighbor, and we have a neighbor adjacent to us that couldn't be here tonight. He will be probably the closest one and the most affected. He has a bedroom 25 feet from the culvert, and all this water is gonna be flowing towards or through. I'm to the west of him, and Rick and I are neighbors to both, or Rick is neighbors to both of us. But we see a large volume of water, a half inch of rain, and that will not go past this crevice. A half inch of rain in an hour, the crevice takes all the water. And it's probably 6 foot from our RDA wall. So we need something done. There should be some concrete from the culvert to this crevice, where we are gonna have some issues with the water. As I see the parking lot, it looks like we're gonna be funneling the water into one central area to drain the parking lot of Dollar General. That's gonna create faster moving water. It's gonna hit us quicker and harder. So something should be done with that area. And like I said, very little water is going to that pond right now.
Yeah,
It's finding other sources.
there is a holding pond down behind Brunings there, you know. So maybe Dollar General will pipe it all the way down there.
Has this crevice ever been addressed to the city before? That you've talked about, or this opening?
Pardon me?
The opening in that waterway, has that been addressed? Have you brought it to the city
Well,
before or not?
no.
Okay.
I talked to Soil and Water, they wouldn't go for that. You might be running that water right back into your drinking water.
So if they're extending the road, Wicked Drive, it's with curb and gutter too, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there is gonna be a concrete barrier there between Wicked and the pond. There's gonna be a curb and gutter there, right?
Yeah, but all the water still goes through my backyard.
Can I speak to the stormwater pond?
Yep.
The Dollar General
Yep.
site? So Dollar General will have to get stormwater permits through the state. They have to meet runoff standards. They're not allowed to increase the runoff of the site. This stormwater pond actually will catch and retain. That pipe that you see there running north to the city lot is the overflow. And so it's not that the water is getting collected and funneled, it's being retained in that pond. And that's stormwater infrastructure. I was out at the site, it doesn't look like there's any existing stormwater infrastructure on that site. So there will actually be less water running off the site in the end condition than there is currently.
Can I ask you that? The existing building, Dollar General, that Dollar General's building will take up less space than the existing building, is that correct? It'll be smaller than the. Correct?
The proposed building is 1,300 square feet. I mean, I don't know what the existing.
Yeah, I can look that up for you.
Dollar General must be a little sited a little further to the north. anyway.
Yes.
The existing building is.
Oh, it's not showing, disconnected. It looks like it's going to be a little larger.
That existing building is less than 1,300?
Yeah, the existing building says here it is 150 by 62.
Including the.
Then the offshoot room is 18 by 30. So
9,300.
So the total square footage is, I'm doing the math in my head. It's about 1,100 with all the access buildings. Because it's the 540, 992, and 9,300.
Oh, I see. 10.7 or so.
Yep. But yes, this existing plan is having a stormwater sewer that the current site does not have.
Currently, there's no paving around that.
Yep.
Building, right?
There's no, just the hard gravel.
The hard surface does get treated as impervious, just as if it were pavement for the stormwater rules though.
Even if it's gravel, like it is currently.
Yeah.
You said that it's treated the same as gravel according to the rules, is that correct?
For the MPCA, yeah,
Sure.
they treat gravel as impervious surface.
Right, so in terms of reality versus rules, that's kind of the question I think that the neighbors are gonna be more concerned about.
So on the road extension of Wicked Drive is a curb and gutter, right?
Yes, from the south side of the current property to, all the way to the corner of Wicket Niagara, that will all be curbed and guttered.
So that problem's addressed there, right? I mean, with curb and gutter put in.
That just blocks water from going
Right.
towards
Travel down the gutter to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, like, once again, the city engineer said they should help improve the issue in that area with the curb and gutter.
Water, right?
And will the parking lot have curb and gutter or curb, I guess?
I honestly do not know, but it will definitely be sloped so that it's directing stormwater into the catchment system that goes to the pond.
This will be a newly constructed pond, because there isn't currently one, right?
It will sit right here on the map, or, oh, if you can, well, once the Doppler radar gets cleaned up there, it's gonna sit right there. Yeah, it's gonna sit right here on the map. And it's gonna go to a storm drain that's gonna drain out into here in this field.
Into riprap. That's the
So the water is directed to the southwest corner of the property.
Yep.
Not to the northwest corner.
Are there more questions or comments?
I had a
Yes.
question. Julie Little, I don't live in that area, but I was just wondering if there's been a study about noise and time of day for deliveries and the truck traffic and that kind of thing, and how that might affect the people that live on Wicked.
In terms of zoning, it fits within the zoning permit, as long as they will follow the zoning, because it's zoned industrial, and that is it.
Well, trucks can only enter on the south corner of off of 52.
Trucks can only enter on
The only
52,
house
yes,
there
yep.
is-
And they would still be
It's a
under,
rental property.
and they would still be under compliance with all city codes that apply to noise
Right.
and times. What that happens within that zone.
Yes.
I know something was mentioned by the gentleman from Overland, but I just want to be clear about this. There's a lot of off-site things being done here. How do we know that the taxpayers of Harmony won't be, having to pay any of that?
If I can answer that, it's, we'll, on the street, we'll make sure that our staff is there too, that is up to city specifications. But they're the ones paying all the bills. We're not setting out any RFP, or we're not doing any of the work ourselves. The work will come from Overland or Dollar General, whoever develops the site. We're just there overseeing it. They're paying out work. They're paying all the bills. We won't be paying any of it.
And the formal way the city can make that happen is by making that a condition in any permit that's granted. So approval could be granted on the condition of, list out any of the relevant ones, but one of them could be that stuff happens at their expense, as they've already volunteered.
Anything involving that site that would require that, yep.
I assume the city will also issue building permits and certificate of occupancy, which generally cities withhold until all the criteria are satisfied, which means building can't be put to use till that's issued.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak again. Are you talking about the whole truck route street? It's gonna, Dollar General pay for that, or?
Dollar General is paying from the corner of Niagara Court and Wicket to the south, the north side of their property, which I keep losing connection with.
But is that gonna hold up for, Tom's truck?
It's being built to city specifications, so yes.
No, but I mean the rest of the street, no. You know, it hasn't been a truck route for years.
Like I said, our city engineer had no fear of anything like that. We've talked about that. We addressed that yesterday in a meeting with Greg, me, and him.
That is a serious question for Mr. Davis also. So I'm glad to hear if the city has been addressing it.
I'm not even clear, Devin, maybe you know from the engineer. So we heard Mr. Ripple say that Dollar General is prepared to finish off Wicket, I think at their expense, that undeveloped stretch.
Yep.
Or is it supposed to be the plan that they redo all the way back to the junction there with?
We have not discussed at this time. The plan has not shown that, but that'd be something that we would have to talk about.
That's my understanding, to the extent that there's a grade change that needs to be made, and to the extent that there's work, that's.
Yeah, so far it's been from the grade change, which would be the corner of Wicket Niagara to the corner of their lot.
I think I remember in our meeting with that city engineer, he was talking about possibly in the future, if that section needed to be redone. You know, the question was raised of how does that get paid for at that time?
Yeah.
And is it the city footing the bill, or is there some tie-in that the developer is still responsible? So that would be something that the commission or the city could address too, if that was important in any approval. If you wanted to make sure that there was something there so that the city wasn't on the hook for that now or down the road, we have to address that now. We wouldn't be able to tackle it later.
I'd like to urge you, if you're granting a permit, to do exactly what Mr. Schieber just suggested, because Tom doesn't want to pay a special assessment for that last 2 feet of the road.
Again, going back to that pond that may be created, it doesn't hold water now. Have there been any studies or anything done to look and see what's underneath that? Because Niagara Cave doesn't want more competition. If the sinkhole does open up there, what is the plan you can't fix the sinkhole. You can fill it, it will open up again. And what is their plan in place by the Overland Group or by Dollar General to have that in their plans? I mean, I don't know if they've had to deal with sinkholes before, but we have.
So is it a sinkhole you're saying?
Pardon?
You're saying that that's a sinkhole to run off on?
I'm asking if it forms one. But I don't know what's underneath the ground. I'm just curious as to what would happen on Overland Group side if one did open up, because there is one nearby, you said, there's a premise over in property right there, and that's, I mean, they run in lines, and so I'm just, if it were to happen, who would be responsible and how would that work out?
Can I say something? I was fire chief for quite a few years in town, and when they did a geological study, and everything on that side of town goes to Big Spring.
So our water probably is going towards the
Big Spring. Yep, everything from the, right behind the golf course and the cart sheds, that goes to Big Spring. Everything else goes to Niagara Cave.
I wasn't actually concerned about the water going into the cave, mostly just if there's a sinkhole formed, is there a way to?
So there's a sinkhole there right now?
That's
Is that what
my
you're saying?
question.
There's a sinkhole there right now? Where the water drains off in?
As far as, I don't know.
The water's been draining there for a lot of years, right?
Exactly, that's the point. So it has been draining there for a lot of years, and solutional water will start to eat away at the limestone below it, especially if that's been the focus of where the water flows for decades and decades. Yeah.
you have other comments or questions?
Was Aaron's question answered?
So if there's a sinkhole there or not?
I could say on behalf of the city has not done any soil testing to have any knowledge of that directly.
And there's no LiDAR detected sinkhole there either.
I think the developer did some sort of soil testing, but I don't know if those results are here or known.
I can't speak to that. I mean, that's a contingency just like anything else. I mean, it could not, petroleum contamination or something that it's not really, able to be planned for until you encounter it.
Anybody else?
I guess we can close the public hearing.
So if you may.
Go ahead.
I'll chip in. So if you're done with the public hearing portion of it, then we get to kind of more of the discussion amongst you guys and decision-making. To help kind of organize this, basically the ordinance has 8 different criteria the applicant needs to meet to be approved. And so I did up a document that I believe was shared with you earlier.
Everyone has that in front of them, a paper copy. There's A, B, C, D, E, and F on there. Greg's gonna take you one by one through each of the 8 items to see if you guys believe that they have met the criteria for the conditional use permit.
So the idea here is rather than just have a brief conversation, but to go through and have a record at the end of the day that supports the decision. It's just best practice. So also what it proposes is that there be just a vote on each criteria as you go along so that, again, it's clear where things stand once all the discussion is done. So that's the idea with that outline. The more support you can give for whatever decisions being made on each criteria, the better. Based on what you've seen in the plans in the application, what you heard from the developer, and what you've heard from the public comments. And then once we're done with that, the idea is we tally up and accept the findings as they are, and then you'd have your chance to vote on a recommendation to the city council. I put on there basically there's 3 different ways that vote could go. You could recommend to deny, you could recommend to approve without any extra conditions, or you could recommend to approve with certain conditions. So that's what you'd be working towards. The other thing too is if you feel like you're not ready to make a recommendation to the council, we're limited on a 60-day timeline. That 60 days runs up here at the end of May, but state law allows you to extend it if you want to. So you could recommend to the council, I guess there's a 4th recommendation you can make, and that could be to extend the 60 days to allow time for questions to be answered or concerns to be answered. So if there's if there aren't any preliminary questions as to what your role is or what you're doing next, then I would just say work through that item by item.
Well, I have a question. If they're gonna come up with a different agreement, when are we gonna know that? If we're gonna make decisions on this, and then they're gonna come with another agreement, does it null and void anything we do here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what you're asking is it relevant to do this now or wait and let them?
Until they come up with an agreement like they.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would be an option too.
Because that's gonna change a lot of things. If they come up with an agreement, it's gonna change a lot of stuff.
Right. Yep, that's an option too, is you could say, we recommend to the council, we leave more time, basically extend it, and then come back and do this once more information is available.
Are we gonna have an agreement in a couple days, a week, a
So
month?
the other point that you made earlier is we could approve, or somebody made it, that we could approve it conditional to agreements
Yeah.
being met, whether it's with Torgeson's, with Mr. Davis, or any other
So we don't
condition
have
that
to
we
come back and
find.
do it again.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's good. That's makes sense from an efficiency standpoint. I guess the one trade-off you'd be doing by approving is if in those conversations, something changes significantly from what we have on the table, you've basically given up your chance to take another look at it. So, yeah, that's one option, is to approve it with those specific conditions, or you could say, let's just extend time and come back and look once everything's ironed out.
is there any support on the commission for, I guess, the first option, which is an extension, and then see if Mr. Davis gets his issues worked out and others as well, or? I'm not trying to suggest that, I'm just asking if there is.
Be taken care of in a week.
I guess I would rather approve conditionally that they come to an agreement, that they notify the city, both parties notify the city, or all three parties notify the city that an agreement has been met, and that we can move forward and issue the permit if that's what we choose to do. So that's my feeling.
Sure.
The option 3.
Is that the feeling of yours as
I
well?
think that'd be a smart way of doing it.
Okay, good.
So we can make a motion on option 3 then if we wanted to.
I think first we need to go through.
We have, yeah.
This. then we
And
get-
are you
get to
gonna
that.
lead us through this, Greg, or am
Yeah.
I supposed to do this?
I can, I can.
I would appreciate it if you
Yeah.
would do that.
Yeah. So starting just on page 1, I listed out kind of some of the preliminary matters of just the other things that the zoning rules require. And so we don't need to spend necessarily a lot of time on that, but you might just want to look that over and or have Devin confirm that those things have been met from his perspective of the
Yeah,
things
the
like
current
publication
site,
notice.
yeah, I have no issue with any of this stuff on page 1.
So if no comments, concerns, questions on that, flipping to page 2, then the first condition is listed under A. It's that ingress and egress to the property and proposed structures thereon with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow and control, and access in the case of fire and catastrophe. So some of this is clunky old language, and that's a symptom of this being very old ordinance. But my takeaway from that is it's basically asking you to consider each of these different things: automotive traffic, pedestrian traffic, convenience, traffic flow, and basically fire access, and decide whether the plan as proposed adequately provides for those things.
In and out of that particular property.
Correct.
We have 3 fighter fires on here, so you guys should figure that one out.
Right.
We'll find a way in.
Right. It's not a problem there.
My concern with Dollar Generals is the aisles are kind of narrow and there aren't very many doors, so I am interested in your opinion on fire safety in terms of getting out of the building if you had.
Well, they would have
Have 3 exits.
sprinkler system
Right.
in place, I would venture to guess, by building standards.
Right.
There's
So
a
that,
smoke alarm system and everything.
Right.
Have 3 exits.
I bid it the first time around. It's all.
yeah.
I'm sure they have
It's all
the
the
access.
state code, not the Fillmore County code. It's all the
Right.
state code.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a side access there, side access there, and front access.
All exits and everything.
So they got 2 exits in the back on each, one on the north, one on the south, and then the big.
That's what I said.
to the-
They're gonna be commercially
It's the
inspected.
state code, not Fillmore County
right.
code.
They're gonna be inspected
The
commercially
reason Fillmore County
versus
doesn't have a code.
residential. It is a state code, Stuart. We just don't have inspectors.
But it's done right, so
Yeah.
it's not a concern at all. It's over and above any public building in Harmony, actually.
Thanks.
And then I will say that MinDOT had to sign off on the approach to the site too. So MinDOT has signed off on the ingress and egress into the site.
Have we seen that as a city? Their sign on?
The approval? Yeah, I've talked to MinDOT personally.
You're talking about from Highway 52.
Yes,
into the
yes.
parking
Yeah, because MinDOT has purview over 52, not us.
I don't know, do I need to ask for comments on this
Yeah,
issue or?
yeah, any comments on any of those things, but it's, I guess at some point, once people have considered it and said their thoughts on it, then you would just vote to see if you believe it's been met. It does mention pedestrian safety too, and I don't know if sidewalks are even out there now or relevant to anything or in the plans.
Sidewalk goes to that right in front of Wheelers, I think.
Yes.
Right to the north
Sidewalk
drive.
only ends-
Yeah,
I'll say,
Right,
I see
right,
Stuart
right.
walking every day, right into the middle of that island there.
But it stops right at the north drive.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
North Drive.
Are you guys ready to, I guess, state your yes or no vote on this?
Yeah.
Should I go through the roll?
Yeah, or you can just call a vote and Lisa can take note of who voted.
Okay.
Oh.
So the question is, do we think that item A has been satisfactorily met? All those who say yes?
Yes.
Aye.
No's, and I'm abstaining because I didn't get a chance to look at stuff before I came here. So 4-0, one abstention. Okay, B, off-street parking and loading areas. Regarding attention to noise, glare, odor.
This is one of those ones where I think there's words missing from the original
I wondered about
zoning
that.
ordinance because it doesn't read very well, but I think what they're looking for is you to verify whether or not there's adequate off-street parking for the business use.
Mhm.
You know, so I suppose you don't have people parking on the side of the highway willy-nilly. Loading areas, so that I suppose what that would interpret to or correlate to in this case is trucks coming and going, you know, do they have adequate space to do that without being a safety concern or a nuisance? Noise, that's probably more intuitive about whether there be any noise concerns with the development as proposed, any glare concerns or odor effects. Those are the items to be considered here.
On the map, you can see the garbage bin area, the loading dock, and they have, was it 36 parking spots? I can't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere in
That's
that.
what I counted, roughly 35 or 36.
31 if you add up the numbers.
There's 4 on the bottom too.
Oh, okay, I missed those, sorry.
So what type of trucks are coming in there? Semis?
Generally, it's a semi that'll pull into the north and back, so the back end of the truck is on that concrete pad where they unload.
So you're saying he's gonna pull off a 52, pull in there and then back into the loading dock in the parking lot?
That's a tight corner.
Notice that that island on the corner is striped, there's not concrete there. Off the southeast corner of the building.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've seen this exact same loadout in Pine Island, and there was never an issue.
It's similar in Preston at Family Dollar. They come in. back
it's just so
there.
they don't ever try to pull up and back in off the highway.
Right. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
You ever see him back in the IGA?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, boys are good. Trippers.
Yeah, but being on Highway 52 though.
You can't back off the highway. No,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
Bart was just sharing on behalf of Tom that the economic consideration here, I think he's just making the point that that impacts Tom, you know, as part of the consideration for
Okay,
Tom.
so that's where that comes in.
Economic, because of
Economic impacts on Tom's business.
because of the not having reached the agreement at this point.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the, so this is one of the points where we need an agreement to be reached.
Yep.
Yeah. Are there more discussion on this one from?
I don't think, I guess there isn't gonna be much for noise. You're gonna have one semi, however often, once a week or a couple times a week. Glare, I don't see an issue with. I don't know what would glare, other than the front windows, which would be on the front side, glaring to 52. I don't know that there would be any odor issues, any different than anywhere else. So I guess my comment would be as long as there's an agreement reached between both Torgerson's and Mr. Davis, that would be the only issue regarding this particular item that needs to be addressed, or make sure that's taken care of.
I'd second that comment.
I agree.
Okay. Miles, Ron, anything?
No, I agree with that too.
Okay, sounds like we're in agreement
Yeah.
on B with the stipulation. with Justin, okay.
Yeah.
All right, part C, Greg?
Refuse and service areas, paying particular attention to the items in A and B above. I think, yeah, there's maybe a little bit of overlap, but refuse, talking about the garbage areas again, and service areas, I would imagine to interpret, in this case, to trucks or utility, anything related to services coming and going for operation of business.
Can we give a roll call vote on B just to be sure?
Roll call vote on B, okay, Miles?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
That's good. So yeah, see, talking about, it's like garbage and just service of the facilities.
And that's, yeah, once again, the bottom southwest corner where the garbage is going to be dedicated for the site.
Is that gonna be a fenced enclosure? I guess would be.
I think on three sides and the gate on the open front.
Okay.
Does that dumpster area block access to the loading dock for the semi?
Loading dock's next to the building.
They're
Yeah,
gonna come in at an angle, so they'll angle that truck back towards the
He's
door.
not backing straight into that.
No, it's a
loading door.
door, flush door.
Yeah, right.
Basically, he runs down a ramp to it.
Yeah.
There ain't no loading dock, like it's just a pad.
I just thought it would hinder his ability to get the truck straight with the.
No, he basically just backs straight up and just.
Yeah, if he was gonna be perpendicular.
Yeah.
It would absolutely, but
Okay.
they load generally just at an angle, kind of like
Yeah.
quick, not
Okay.
exactly like Quick Trip, but
Yeah.
kind of angle.
I get it. Okay.
So I guess I don't see any issues
No, either.
with garbage or
If
service
it's enclosed,
areas.
I think it's.
Yeah, I
Should be
mean,
nothing wrong with
it'll be, I would guess it'd be similar to Quick Trip, so it's enclosed.
Out of sight.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call on C then. Miles?
Aye.
Aye for Miles. Jim?
Aye.
Aye. Rod?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Abstain for me.
Okay, the next one, D, it references utilities, specifically with reference to locations, availability, compatibility. So this would be taking a look at the proposed use for the property and making a determination of whether the utilities either that are there or need to be there are adequate to meet the operational needs of what's being proposed. So things like water, sewer,
Yep,
electricity.
they have appropriate access to water and sewer on this site.
Water use couldn't be much greater than the original meters when it
No,
was
no.
functioning.
And anything now that with the water's looped, the water's better than it's ever been back in that area, so.
Any comments from the commission or concerns? Are you ready to state our opinion? Miles?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Jim?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
E.
Screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, and character. So screening and buffering would probably be referencing shrubs, fences, any of that you thought was important or relevant for the site. And maybe the plan details what's proposed, but if there was anything lacking, this would be a chance to review that.
I guess the only screening.
I can't
is-
really tell what they got.
There isn't much for
Yeah.
there, for green space period, I mean.
Just in the back corner by the pond.
there.
Yep.
Well,
A
that's
little bit on the
easement.
island. And it shows by his garage over here, dividing. blocking
Yeah,
that
there's,
From this way.
So that'll all be grass on the south side, landscape area.
yeah.
This is all
yes,
shrubs right here.
Currently, right? Is that what you're looking
Yeah, Torgerson, you guys have bushes and trees along that property line, don't you?
Right on the
On the
utility line, yes. There's trees right on that utility line.
And Tom, you have trees on your property line too, right? On the east side?
West side, you mean?
Yeah.
East side of your
No,
property?
east side of Tom's property, west side of the Dollar
It's on
General.
the Weaver's property.
Oh, it is? Okay. It's hard to tell with GIS lines being
Sure.
off.
But nothing on the north side?
North side, you have the city, it's a city empty lot. There's no trees or anything. There's utility line poles that run on the property line. Nope.
But they won't put shrubs or nothing there or nothing?
We're gonna keep that. We prefer not to. That's one of our main lines in town, so we're gonna keep that pretty well clear.
I think this would commonly come up if you get a neighbor that just wanted the privacy or didn't want, people coming across easily. So we haven't heard anybody speak to that concern tonight. Not to say that it's irrelevant, but probably
Well,
minimizes it.
Probably the only ones that would have anybody trying to sneak across would be Torgerson's would be my guess.
I've never seen any greenery stuff as far as what's going on that side of the building. So I don't know what they're doing on that side. I just need to make sure I can get through there with the semi. So as far as grass area, when we come through with a semi, if there's grass there, it probably won't be there when we come through with a semi. So that's why I just want to make sure.
They have that south side gravel there where their access point is.
I think it's supposed to all be gravel.
Yeah, there wouldn't be, other than making that loop into your easement, there wouldn't be any issues. there.
Yeah, I think the only fear you would have is potential through traffic, thinking that's a shortcut or something that might have to be do not enter signs there, but that'd be the only
Yeah,
thing.
that
I
might
can
be
think of.
something that has to be addressed for
I
your,
don't want them coming through there.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Torgerson's easement
Yeah.
access.
Because we had problems at Wheelers.
Correct.
When there's events down there,
Mm-hmm.
we use our driveway coming through. We ran into it all the time.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have as many people as you had at.
No.
Wheelers
Right.
They're not
And
gonna
other
come
issues
across.
that, yeah. Other issues.
Oh,
that you
once
had.
they're buying alcohol in there, but,
Does that look like enough room for you to turn the semi out?
well, we have to go with what our easement is. So as long as we have the room through there for our semi to come in there. It's a
It's,
72 or 78 foot semi coming through there. It's a big, I mean, it's just like a big truck that they're gonna be coming through with haul and stuff, so.
and that's pretty similar to the current easement that you have, right?
You can see the dotted line underneath it is actually the current easement.
It's
Yeah.
just shifted a little bit.
Our easement goes right down the center of that access off of 52,
Okay,
12 feet wide.
12 feet wide. And if you guys reach an agreement, then that would be the same width roughly.
Yeah, that won't change.
That won't change.
What we have legally documented through the state will stay that same. We're not changing.
Other questions on part E, I guess we're on? We ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay. Miles, start with you again. Aye. Okay, Jim?
Aye.
Rod?
Yep. Aye.
And Jessica?
Hi.
Ayes.
Subsection F, states signs, if any. So considering signs and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. So signs and lighting.
Do we know anything about that as far as the proposal?
I guess that would be the only issue would be the signing for their, like a do not enter sign for their easement access.
And the overall, the size of the Dollar General sign up front is gonna be what? It's gonna be the same base, the same one you have all over.
Yeah, I mean, it's that lighted, internal lit, so there's not light shining on it, it's just illuminated from the inside, so it doesn't, it's not cast beyond that. I know, Overland did provide kind of the lighting information too on, parking lot lighting and building lighting, those are all downcast fixtures, so they're not casting light, outside of the property.
They're not competing with Rubens Light then.
Right, but the sign is on the building.
I have
Dollar General sign on the building.
There's a pylon sign, which is shown, it's on the island in the front there.
That's right.
Oh.
Correct, and then there is, internal lit, sign on the building.
Is that that ain't a tall, it's just a flush mount, right? Just a,
Right, it's mounted on the surface of the building,
okay.
not up.
I mean, the one on
the pole?
Is there one on a pole or is it on the
That's-
ground?
Yes, the pylon sign, I don't know the sign face dimensions offhand, but it is, on a pole.
Mhm.
So it's up in the airways.
It would be, I'm guessing it'd be the same as any Dollar General you go by that has a
Yeah,
pole.
generally, I think the bottom of that is like 14 feet, and then it's 4 feet tall generally. I don't know the specifics on this one, based on the plan I got.
Similar to what's there now.
Yep, you're right.
Is there parking lot lighting at the existing place that's on? I'm just curious if the lighting is gonna change in the area.
The building has a couple of
Torkerson's.
lights mounted to the side of the building, but there's no standalone poles or anything like that.
No, not I see from the.
It's gonna improve. Yeah.
It would improve if anything.
Yeah.
As far as glare.
It would improve the lighting in that whole
I think there was,
lot.
if I remember right, there was two on the original bit. So it'd be it'd be
Two
less-
poles?
Yep.
Two light poles.
It'd be directional lighting, it'd be less than what you have on the building now, shining off.
Because it'd be all directional down, right?
Right.
So less light pollution.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost where I am.
Where the apps do? Why?
I can't remember that, that was a long time ago.
Further discussion of F? All right, Rod, I'll start with you this time. Mix it up.
Yep. Aye.
Aye. Jesse?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
I'm abstaining again. Okay, G.
Yards. Yep, sorry, required yards and other open space, so that's referencing, I believe, setbacks essentially. Side yard setback, rear yard setback. I think this plan maybe doesn't show it, but there was a version that the side yard is supposed to be 20 feet, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Rear yard 30 feet, so as long as those are met, then this one would presumably be met.
So we don't need to stipulate that, that's part of.
That's part of the
so they have
zoning
to
already,
make that
yep.
anyway.
Yeah, that has to be approved before they get their zoning permit. Yeah.
Right.
And that's not contingent on any easements.
Do the easements that are on the screen come into play here
That's-
for
yeah, that's-
Torkerson's?
Yeah, I think the proper interpretation would be you would not, you could overlap the side yard with the easement. In other words, you're just working on the property line.
Okay.
Right.
You don't have to start at the south edge of the easement necessarily.
Any other questions, concerns?
Would that affect anybody on the side or Tom's in the back? The setbacks on that?
The back setback's fine. The issue, as long as it's not within that access easement.
So actually, it's a good segue.
That's not the current
The back
drawing.
No.
Back setback is fine as long, the 30 feet, I think, as it was cited in the plans, as long as Dollar General still owns that whole back portion. If there's any scenario in which they turned over some of the ownership to Tom for his access to his property, then that might have to be reconsidered. Because usually you measure setbacks from the boundary line of that where you own. So I don't know that that's in the works, but that would just be food for thought if something like that happened to unfold.
So the proposed extension of Wicked Drive would be on Dollar General property? No.
No, because it ends right at their property, the improvement, and then it's an easement access
Right.
from their property into Mr. Davis's. That's the proposed.
Right, yeah, okay, easement, sure, I messed up.
And that's where we were talking about that easement, but like Greg said, is if that, they came to an agreement and that proposed easement is now sold to Mr. Davis, then it couldn't be an issue because you wouldn't meet that 30-foot setback.
Okay.
Or alternatively, you'd need to obtain a variance that
Correct.
gave you permission to deviate from 30 feet. But that's not what's proposed on the table right now.
Right.
That's just a consideration if that were to come to pass.
Yep. And if that came throughout this, would that be, so let's say that that scenario happened, that for some reason they came to an agreement and Mr. Davis ended up purchasing that easement portion from Overland Group. Would that have to be brought back because it's a change of what we're trying to, or the plans in front of us have changed and it would have to come back, or do we have to make that a stipulation?
Probably best to make it a condition to say, you know, we approve this under these conditions, and oh, by the way, the final condition is no substantial changes. I mean, that would probably be the, if you don't wanna just do the extension and come back and review, that would probably be your next best safety valve.
Could just add to that. That is something that Tom is interested in doing, so I'm glad you're asking the follow-up question there. It's possible that we could reach an agreement with Dollar General where we end up asking for a variance like that.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, well, if I was gonna move forward with it, I would make it that way, you know, that we would, as long as it's based on the current, if anything changes in the current, from the current proposed plat drawing or drawing in those agreements, that we'd have to come back and ask for the variance.
Do you also require subdivision approval to split that off? I mean, quite frankly, we just want to avoid as few approvals as we need to. I'm not saying that Dollar General would be opposed to selling that, but
Right.
you're lovely folks, but we don't want to have to come back.
Well, I think that's what everybody's trying to do, is
Yeah.
alleviate everybody
Which
coming
frankly
back.
is why Mr. Davis would be interested in buying it too.
Right.
To avoid future issues.
So.
I'd have to review the ordinances just to double check, but historically, we've not been doing things with subdivision approvals, so I don't think it would be a hurdle, but I'd want to double check before you
We could,
bank on it.
but we could probably do that all in the same meeting too, if it need to be. I mean, realistically.
Well, I think from their aspect, if that was the case that we needed to do a subdivision, we would want to know as soon as possible so that everybody could come back and address those issues at the time. Or if we could say that it meets our ordinance, then we don't have to come back. You know, would be the change that would be agreed upon. To save everybody time, but I think we need to.
I think we need to have that in there too.
Yeah, we need to stipulate something in there. In regards to that.
That could be added at the end of the motion, then the recommendation of this, that you recommend this to council pending these X, Y, and Z.
Ready to go? Okay, Rod?
Yes.
Yes.
Jesse? Miles?
So
Sorry.
are they considering selling the property, back part of the property to Tom?
We have,
There's no agreement about that.
yeah, but Bart brought it up and it seemed like a significant complication, and so Overland was not really interested in pursuing that. If the city's saying, yeah, that'd be great, that's not an issue, that might change things.
Yeah, we'd still run into an issue of setbacks, but we'd have to come back to
And
that.
I assume variance, you
Yeah.
another
public hearing.
Correct.
Mhm.
That would all have to
Yeah.
come out.
You said aye?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Okay, and the final one,
H.
subdivision H, would be general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. So adjacent properties is probably obvious, that would be properties touching, bordering. Other properties in the district here, we're talking about probably the industrial district as a whole, in general.
I guess the only thing that is the easement issues that I see is making sure that those are satisfied. As far as compatibility.
If they make an agreement, then something's gonna change on that one also, right?
That would all have to, if they come to that agreement where they sell the chunk of property, then that would all open up the variance issue, the subdivision, possibly the subdivision issue and those things. Yeah. That would change that. It's, I'm going based off of this point.
Other concerns? You satisfied, Miles? Yes. Okay. Are ready to go on H then? Jim?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
Aye.
Rod?
Yes. Aye.
Clarify for the record, you guys are saying I, subject to the easement issues being worked out.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Sorry.
Correct.
That was the first thing that Jesse said, so.
So, that's the last one of those. This next part would just be an opportunity for somebody to make a motion to approve the findings that you just went through, basically the reasons of support in this case, because I think there weren't any no votes on anything, except for the caveats that we have with the conditions that would follow. So, that would be good practice in this case. If somebody made a motion to accept the findings.
I would make a motion to accept the findings.
Second.
Jesse and Miles, okay. Discussion? We need discussion? Hearing none, we'll go through the voting again. We ready to vote? Rod?
Yes.
Yes, for Rod, okay.
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, abstain.
Then you'd be at a point, if you have no other discussion, comments, questions, to formulate whatever your recommendation would be to the city council. And again, recap, denial, option 2, probably shouldn't have said unconditional approval, I should have said conditional approval without extra conditions. Or option 3, conditional approval, or unlisted option 4. If you weren't ready to make a recommendation, you could, I suppose, recommend an extension for further deliberations. And so if somebody were to make a motion for any sort of conditional approval, and I should back up, any motion for denial would be based on this idea that it's not, the issues haven't been sorted out. But assuming you're making any sort of conditional approval, then we'll also want to make clear for the record and for the council's benefit what those conditions you're recommending are.
So I would make a motion to do the conditional approval. One of the caveats or issues that needs to be addressed is both easement issues need to be agreed upon. If any, number 2, any changes that need to be addressed for setbacks or variances, it would need to come back for approval through planning and zoning and city council. I guess those are the only 2 that I can think of.
Designated truck route.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Other notes I have would be the truck route. You probably would want to specify completion of Wicked Drive, according to city engineer specifications and at their cost. you might also want to consider, is it just the final end of Wicked Drive, or is there anything about from the turn? Is it Niagara Court? Is that what? Oh, no.
So, okay. Are those, you get any more, Greg?
Yeah.
Before
Maybe it's implied, but too, if you really want to be specific, if there's utilities that need to be moved, things like that, as part of this work up there in the northwest corner, this would be a chance to just clarify that if one of the conditions is you're moving those at your expense. So, yeah, I think those are the ones I've heard come out.
And maybe the do not enter signs for.
Yes, there you go, that one.
Progresses.
And what Greg mentioned something earlier about future costs, and I haven't heard that in this motion.
Potential for future costs for damage to Wicket, basically, is that the
I think that's what part's referencing, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
what's-
point of, would you just be requiring them to finish out Wicked Drive to the boundary line? Or do you also want to make some provision for the rest of that stretch?
Well, it looks like it's going to the end of the street. Yeah,
So to the corner where you turn,
yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I mean,
then you have that issue from,
yeah, but you gotta realize all the water runs down from our street. And then if you look at our backyards, it's kind of humped like that. So water runs right through our backyards, right? Okay. It's right here. Okay, so her house is right here.
Yeah.
Nadine's.
Okay, they're gonna put a culvert there.
Yep.
And then they're gonna run it over to this pond. And then they're gonna have a holding pond and they're gonna run it there too.
Yep.
Okay, now, all the water that comes down, they'll take care of the water on behind our houses. That one there. But the ones coming down the street will go down the street and there's two gutters on both sides and that goes behind Lisa and Dick's house.
which is where this will.
That would be
eventually-
farther down on Wicked Drive.
Yep.
And that's where they got like a walkout, and that's where, if it's heavy rain, they could get foot water in their basement. So that might need to be addressed. Them two culverts right there on Wicked Drive, how they divert the water. Because when it rains, I mean, there's a lot of water going down our
I've
street.
heard issues of that prior. I haven't heard them for a while.
There's no gutter up Niagara Court at all. It just drains down into Wicked Drive.
Storm sewer lines. Yeah, the only two I know are the ones farther down, right in the middle of the
So
street.
there's no sewer anywhere on down that street.
The storm sewer map's right there.
It'd be right where, right there. There's two of them right there.
Right there.
You see them? Right there.
Right there. That's the line they're saying the following from the pond into their backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna go down there.
So that could be, I mean, that's where the water's coming is down our street into them two gutters. And they both go behind underneath the street and, the Dick and Lisa's house and back to that pond.
So you're suggesting this should be
Well-
added in,
I'm gonna figure out a way to, instead of running out that way, maybe have the storm sewer or something.
Yeah, we'll make sure that the drainage plan's checked by city engineers so it doesn't create more hardship on citizens.
Yeah, but I mean, they got a walkout right there, right where that comes out.
I know we,
yes.
Jerome, did we do some work? Did the city do some work when Krista Hugendick owned Lisa? That drainage that goes behind Rick and Sarah's and then Lisa and
There's been some work that's been addressed there in quite a few years.
Right.
I'm not aware of anything since that's been done that has been a concern.
we haven't heard any issues since then.
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Recently.
Well, I know what Dick and Lisa have done is where it comes underneath the street. They put pavers to try to divert the water away from their house. And they done that themselves.
So I'll make sure we work with Brett too to make sure that
So let's,
Can we attach that as a condition of?
yeah, well, by approval, so as far as the stormwater issue, that's approved by the city engineer that it meets all of those conditions and his recommendations. That it's conditional on the truck route being passed through city council, which I would recommend that the city council do. the improvement of Wicked Drive would be from the corner of Niagara Court to the property line for Overland Group. And that the other condition is that that is at the cost of Overland Group or Dollar General, but that improvement is also approved by and watched by our city engineer. That any utilities that need to be moved for the proposed site are done at the cost of Overland Group or Dollar General. Is there anything that I missed?
Going back to the come back for review if there's changes in the rear, one way to put that, maybe a simpler way to put that is to say contingent upon property boundaries not changing.
Okay.
So if for some reason there was a change in the boundary line, then they'd have to come back.
I would, what he said.
Change, amend the language.
Okay, so are we done adding to the motion? Lisa, do you have the motion that we can read back?
There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Take a deep breath.
So this is what I got, but this might be,
Just go through it.
we might have said this one twice. The first contingent was both easement issues being agreed upon, changes to setback and variance.
That's the one we just addressed.
Yep. With the both easement issues being agreed upon, we might want to be more specific and say written agreement signed by all relevant parties.
Yeah, written agreement
Because that's black and white. We know whether it's been done or not.
and sent to the city.
Yeah.
So that we can verify it.
It's getting longer.
I know. Just wait, we're not done yet.
Can I just ask, I don't believe the Torgerson easement is changing at all. I don't know if there's a need to have a additional written agreement.
Well, no, there isn't, but with the letter stuff that I got,
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to you
That's where-
about that. I mean.
And I think that's what we're addressing is to make sure that everybody's just agreeable. And if it is, we just need notification from.
I just want to make sure.
Some acknowledgement.
Yes.
Acknowledge that everyone's okay to go with the plan.
Yep.
Okay. No changes setbacks, to setbacks or variance. Truck route passed by city council. Completion of Wicket Drive at Overland's expense
From Niagara Court
from Niagara Court.
to their property line.
Any changes to utilities would be at Overland's expense.
Specific for their site, I guess.
Yeah, for their site.
Do not enter signs would be included for the Torgerson easement and potential for future costs on Wicket Drive.
I think that was encompassed in have to finish Wicket Drive from Niagara Court to the boundary line.
Oh, no, this is the in the future use.
Future costs.
Okay.
That was something that could be potentially looked at instead of if Tom's truck deems construction sooner, it would lessen the need of assessments, even though the city pays for the road itself, but it could buy down some of the assessment a little bit. I believe that's what you're going after, right?
It is, yes.
So
That's what I was trying to paraphrase what you were saying. That's it, right?
That was accurate.
So just, I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying that upon acceptance of that as a public road, there still be a maintenance obligation?
That's what was brought up here, and I was trying to figure out if they wanted that in the motion or not.
I don't think that was part of my motion.
Okay.
Because I don't,
It is kind of what I thought I heard Greg talk about earlier, and I spoke to, you know, we don't want a special assessment if 3 years from now, the road doesn't hold up. And we're looking for a truck route designation all the way from here to highway, wherever Tom connects 52, I think that's up Moram Drive. And I don't know whether that's consequential costs for the city to maintain that, but it's important that it be maintained.
I get what you're saying.
So you're not gonna know now what those costs might be.
Yeah, but you'd have to do it now. You couldn't do it you couldn't come back in 5 years and say,
Correct.
yeah, so it has to be now or never.
But how, because his property, and I get he's using that route, how do we assess him just because he's using their route?
Well, it's- I don't know the answer to that. I don't know exactly how you would do the tax work, but that's there was a question asked earlier about an impact on
Absolutely,
taxpayers, and this would be it. If there's a general impact on taxpayers, Tom would pay his part for that, and he doesn't want to bear the burden of giving up his own rights here.
Gotcha.
To allow this to happen. So,
I'm not gonna put that in the motion, that word of it. The cost for any future cost and damage from Morham's.
Okay, and then the next one I have is drainage and stormwater be approved by city engineer. Yep. Is that everything?
I think so.
That's all I got.
That everything you took down?
Lisa, just to clarify, the one about no change to the boundary lines unless, no change to the boundary lines or it comes back for review. I think you had that maybe worded in a different way, but just to make sure that that's in there.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I had that in with the setbacks on the variance. Should we just put it, say it?
Yeah, probably just a better way to say that is no changes to the property boundary lines. Or
If there are changes, it has to come back.
yeah, or if there are, it comes back. I guess that's not the technical way to do it, but basically no change to the boundary lines is a condition of this
Yeah.
permit, and if they change them, then of course the permit doesn't go.
Okay, so it's conditional upon both easement issues agreed upon and in writing, agreed upon, signed by both parties. Truck route passed by city council, completion of Wicked Drive at Overland cost from Niagara Cave to their property.
Mayor Court.
Niagara Court. Oh, that'd be
That's
funny.
That'd be a freeway for you guys.
Use a little improvement back there.
Do not enter signs on the Torgerson easement and drainage and stormwater approved by city engineer. And the contingent upon no changes to boundary lines unless it comes back for review.
Sounds like everything.
Sounds like that's everything I had.
So we have a motion. I don't know if anybody provided a second yet.
We just got done with the motion.
Yeah. True. I didn't know if I missed one earlier or not.
I didn't hear.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second from. Discussion. Looks like you're ready to go. All right, Miles, what do you say?
Aye.
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 Abstain. All right. 4-0-1. I think that's everything.
Yeah, we are adjourned.
So a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, now council meeting now. Take a little 5-minute break here and re-adjourn as a council meeting.
I just want to thank everybody. We will start the council meeting in 5 minutes. Thank you all very much. A lot to go through. Good process.
So I drink that.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yep.
mayor should
Yeah, if you can get result of that.
Oh, it did get loud.
I think, you know, a lot of this is changing daily, so it's like, how do you get something where they check it yesterday?
Well, see, that's the other thing is things are changing. How are we supposed to review them? I work in a world where we get agendas and documents at least a week ahead of the meeting. So we have time to talk, we'll consider it before we go to the meeting. So then we can sit here for an hour.
This is a pretty rare.
Yeah, I realize this is
You
a
know,
much
if you
bigger.
did this, you know, in larger cities, they have a process. Just,
I get that, part of it.
and I think it's pretty. No problem. Yeah, I think.
So we don't violate open meeting law? That's why I took it out.
This is for that lighting. That's what I was looking to do quickly. I'm not sure. This particular one. It does shine on it. Thank you. That should be turned off.
There are other things.
Okay.
We'll work on these.
Holy crap, I wasn't
dehydrated.
dehydrated.
With the water.
It's been 7:46 for now.
Gonna make reduce.
That's what it's doing. It's just by putting my attention on it.
How's it going? That was, yes.
A lot of stuff to look over.
There's a lot, yes. What's the password now? Do we have a new one or do we have?
Guest City.
What?
Guest City.
Perfect.
I'm hoping to table some of this.
Well, no, it's more or less just going through it.
It's really, most of it should be.
Here's the attachments.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, here's the attachments.
Thank you.
Is that you or me? It's my iPad. Siri's being a pain.
So, they added the password's still Guest City, but they added a cap, seat to the conference room, so.
Oh, that's why I couldn't get in here.
Yeah, it's Guest City still, lowercase Guest City.
What is it?
No, you want conference room, not city.
Conference room, guest city with a capital G.
No, lowercase.
Lowercase, but a capital C. All lowercase.
All lowercase.
Why don't you just have it not protected?
I can go.
And then unplug it when we leave here.
We
got a router.
Because somebody be out here using Wi-Fi.
Oh, we had someone using Wi-Fi last year.
No, you just unplug it because we got a
I
router.
hear
for
you.
this room.
I'm with you.
We got a router. For
You
this
gotta
room.
remember to do, that's what I'm saying, you gotta remember to do that.
Let's put it on time.
I know you guys going down to the.
Could you throw me a pen?
Yeah, use it, baby. Yes, you
That was
do.
directly from the email from Greg.
Cool. Yeah, it's gonna be. Hey.
That was more or less showing you what they will not take.
Yeah.
Works.
Hey, thanks. You do the last one. I got it in my pocket at home.
job, Lizzie. You did great. That's a lot of stuff to do. Mhm. Standard, yeah. Oh yeah, what we gonna? Yeah, let's do.
Oh,
I can't even find my agenda.
It's on the website.
Yeah. Okay, right here, yep. Overland Group, industrial area.
It's always there. isn't it?
CY camp, breaks water bill. How'd she take that? Her
Huh?
Water bill.
Huh?
How'd she take her water bill? Good, bad?
Haven't. We can table it till next month.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I just want to
There
give
was
you an
nothing
update.
wrong.
Yeah, I
There
just want to
was
give you an update on that one.
Nothing wrong, nothing wrong.
You in it yet, Steve, or are you still logging in?
Yeah.
I know, that's
Trying to
crazy.
find the internet. I think I'm logged in.
Wrong for 1 month and something crazy and then goes back.
Or you wait until 9 o'clock to start this?
Had to be something. Yeah, there had to be something.
Good, I got it. Thank you. All right, we're going to call our meeting to order. We got the roll call, and the first order of business is the Overland Group Cup request. And we have a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning.
Yeah, Lisa, do you want to read the recommendation from planning and zoning?
And then copy and paste it later.
Does anybody need to hear the reading again? I think, was everyone in the present when she read that? Does anybody want to hear that again?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from planning and zoning regarding the Overland Group Cup request.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
I have a question. The Planning and Zoning Board, did they go down there and look at the site or was there any, we've heard public
Not
comments?
as a group. I have looked at the site. I can't speak for anybody else.
Did you have specific questions about it?
No, I was just curious to see if the whole group went down there and looked at it or if just certain individuals went and saw. Just from the public, I guess, comments.
Yeah, I've been sending every information I get, and I've always been reaching out saying if there's any information you need or more information, please contact me.
Okay.
I had a couple thoughts while I was sitting there, and Greg informed me I couldn't talk.
Yep.
Sorry.
Um,
The one time I get to judge now.
Yeah. So one thing I thought is, Anne, this isn't for a conversation. I'm just speaking to you and as the group. You would ask a question and then Aaron had asked a question and you asked if Aaron's question had been answered. And of course, public hearings, you can make comments, but that doesn't mean every question is going to be answered. But specifically, I think in the end, his question was answered. I look at this, the DOT is basically, if you look at this site, that property, if it's going to be improved, the DOT is requiring that one of those driveways be closed. Tom has an easement that's, his written easement is something he really hasn't used. He's used a prescriptive easement, I think you call it. And then the Minnesota Pollution Control has addressed the water runoff issues. That holding pond, those are constructed, Minnesota Pollution Control and engineering requires that those drain out so the overflow will go and then they filter out. The water that's leaving that site now is all going somewhere. And now it's going to get there more slowly in a more organized way and exactly the way the Minnesota Pollution Control wants it to happen. The water that's going down the street to gutters is going there now. And I don't know if you would take a business a block and a half away and say, oh, well, none of your water goes there or on that street, but yet we want to change that. If that has to be addressed, that's something for the city to address. I have a thought. Yeah, and I think it's a pretty good site improvement. So, anybody else have any comments?
I guess one other one I have, this has to do with Brett. I know you had said he's okay with everything, but in past things we've done with him so far, for example, the splash pad, he was okay with all that stuff. And
Well, this is directly his area of expertise. You were asking a civil engineer to do splash pad equipment, something he's never done before.
Yep.
This is an area he's worked in for 20 plus years. He's an expert in this area of civil work. I have no problem backing his work on this project.
Okay.
And that's to do with the road.
The
was the
road,
road,
and
right.
the drainage.
Storm
Yep. He's designed how many projects for the city the past 20 years, and he's never had one, The issues have not been there for our city projects.
I thought we have an issue right now with our street.
What street?
That we just did over on, your street has cracks on it. What street is that? Is that 6th, 7th Street?
Is that design flaw or manufacturing flaw?
Wasn't that an overlay?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Overlaid some
Overlay.
of the substructures.
We didn't redo the whole road.
With a
Okay.
crack.
Gotcha.
That'll be a crack and fill issue.
Gotcha.
The only thing I got is, it's zoning and planning. And we do know that our planning commission is outdated. And we are looking at redoing that. And I guess my question is will that fit into the new plan that we are looking at? I know that hasn't been started yet, but there are people in town that do not want it. And I guess we need to look at their side too, as far as the plan for the total city, other than just putting up another building. And the other is to make sure that, I'll say Tom and everybody else gets satisfied as far as for entrances and exits or whatever onto the highway and their property.
I got one question, Greg. Should we do the truck route before or after this issue?
Yeah,
Or is
good
it
question.
part of this?
First question is, could you even consider and approve the truck route tonight?
Right.
I would say probably not, because this is a special meeting. And so you have less latitude in a special meeting to take up things that weren't advertised or contemplated. So that would be at best be done probably at your next regular meeting, June meeting, put on the agenda.
And I would comment that that's a condition, so that's something that has to be completed. Another condition is that the easements and the accesses that is
Satisfied.
conditioned in this. So the other part with the long-range planning, it's not the planning commission, but a long-range plan. That's going to be quite a process, and
It's a year-long process from start
Yeah,
to
it's about a
finish.
year.
Yeah.
and a business can go out of business and leave tomorrow and last week like the pharmacy did. But you only get so many chances at new businesses coming in.
Question for you regarding the truck route. Is that a resolution or an ordinance?
Resolution.
Okay, thank you. Just for posting requirements.
Any further discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the planning and zoning recommendation with conditions as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Does council have to do anything for the new generations or not?
And maybe we just want to acknowledge and approve what the planning commission is recommending, perhaps just for the satisfaction of the individual involved.
Yep.
Peace of mind, I should say.
I would make a motion to approve the recommendation from planning and zoning to allow the variance for the resident in new generations.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Citywide cleanup.
Yeah, before you, I have a list of items that they will not accept at citywide cleanup. Richard Sanitation has agreed to do it on the 19th. I'm here asking for you, how many hours do you want them here? And what hours?
That's a Sunday or something if I remember.
Yeah, it's a Sunday, yep.
And I would think the later we could have them, the better.
It's noon to 4, noon to 6, something like that. We will get this list of materials they will not take. We'll put this in the water bill, and then we'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it on our website. We'll do all that to the citizens.
Did Greg have any time restraints for that day? Just
his son said not 6 a.m. That's all his son said. Because he's the one going to be here.
Okay.
But the longer we have them, the more we pay.
The more we pay, yes, yeah.
It's $150 an hour, $150 an hour for them just to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the per tonnage basis too.
So
Yeah.
are they gonna bring that dumpster ahead of time?
It's going to be their truck. And when the truck comes, I go run it back and run it back and go.
Keep
Yep.
running back.
My first thought was 2 to 6 makes the most sense because it gives people more time to organize at home and get it up here.
How long did it take last time? Do you remember?
Bill started about 8 and was done by noon.
Yeah, he was done by
So
noon.
4 hours.
Bill was flying through
He
here.
was driving around.
Yeah.
They had 2 trucks. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had Severson,
Yeah.
SNS, and then we're both here.
But the only, I think 4 hours should be sufficient. Somebody might have to wait in line a little bit, but
Yeah, and as long as people know too, this is not like last year. It's not a curb pickup. The only company that would do the curb pickup is not going to do it this year.
And they're doing, it's going to be right here, right?
Yes, we're going to keep it at
Parking lot.
either one of these 2 parking lots, but up here at the community center. Yep.
So there's plenty of standby parking, let's say if they have to.
Yeah.
and the date again is
June 19th.
Sunday, June 19th. Father's Day.
It is Father's Day. So you do a little garage cleanup on Father's Day.
and I would say,
We better have him back the truck on Father's Day.
I'll make a motion, we approve that for 2 to 6.
Second.
2 to 6. Thank you.
That's good.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Uh,
Opposed?
Oh, sorry about that.
Motion carried. Okay. Did you have anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay. The Reichs water bill?
Just an update on that. She had regular wattage usage. If you want her, another discussion with her, was she's present to talk to her about it, or if you just want to make a motion tonight, it'd be up to you guys if you want that. I just want to touch base with you guys again on that discussion from last week.
Nothing was wrong with the.
She had regular usage.
Nothing was wrong with the meter or the.
Continuing, yeah, so I'm assuming somewhere it went through and she just didn't know it. in the past, we've never done anything except if someone proved or had a good story for how it went out of doors and we forgave that or reduced the sewer
And
amount.
we did everything short of going into her house and running 5 gallons through the meter. We just looked at usage and the usage was back to normal usage. So if she wants someone to go in her house, we could get that done, but our guys weren't too keen on that.
Does anyone want to do anything about it, or should we let
If
it
we-
die
I was
for
gonna
lack
say
of
if we
motion?
let it die, it just-
So we're taking no action
Okay.
on that. RFP for the comp plan.
Yep, we received one from Widseth. It was $29,600 from Widseth. If you'd like me to go forward with that, or do you want to set a meeting up to discuss with Widseth for that comp plan, I can get that arranged too.
you have their proposal or their.
I've forwarded to, I believe I
think
forwarded to
we
all of
had-
you.
yeah, I think I threw it briefly.
So that's one thing, like he'd be willing to come in and discuss what the comp plan would entail before he approved. I just want to give you an update on that here. If you indeed want more information from that.
Would he be available to come to the next council meeting?
I can check with him if he can do that. Yep.
If you can, let's do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd
Be a good idea. Good idea to have them.
So we won't take any action on that. We're just having you have them come to a meeting.
Yep.
Car charger rates.
Okay, did Stuart leave?
Yeah.
Yep.
Dang. They're supposed to get installed soon, and there's a chance that they might be installed before the next council meeting. So I wanted to make sure that I have the okay to set a rate for them. I was thinking about charging the peak rate for electricity, so we never have to change it. So it'd just be one rate for the meter itself.
Is that similar to what other communities? do?
It's very similar to what other cities are doing. They're charging peak demand rates.
Do you know what the peak rate is?
Not off the top of my head, no, but it's a
Like
pretty.
14 cents, or is it more than that? Or
It's going to be in that ballpark.
I didn't know how much peak went up.
I'm
If it's
gonna,
10%.
like I said, I'm just looking to see if we're okay with setting that the peak price.
I would make a motion to set the rate at peak price.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then we got some light claims this month, or at the special meeting. One for the splash pad equipment from First Source, not the equipment, but the infrastructure for the splash pad and for the shelter itself. And then a few other things that are due by the 30th that we did not get in by the time for the meeting, which are the fireworks and what's the other thing?
Burn Rock.
SCBA exams.
Yep. And the MnDOT, the Department of Human Services thing too. Yep.
Didn't we have a $20,000 one last at our meeting for the splash pad?
That was 2 months ago, and that was for the
It was
structures.
25 for the
And that was
Structure, okay.
this is
all
all
plumbing.
this is all the plumbing to get the water from
And this
the
isn't-
source to the splash pad to the
And
shelter.
This isn't broke out yet.
Not broken out yet. Nope. I just want to make sure we get a check to First Supply, so we're not
So
in
it'll
their
have to be
bad
broke out
graces.
between the shelter and the splash pad.
Yeah.
Okay.
The community fund voted to do the 20,000 extra. And with that, just had a request that if that comes in less or whatever that
Mhm.
is, that would stay in the splash pad fund for splash pad uses. And then we're also closing the splash pad project fund
Mhm.
in the community fund, and that's another $1,000. So
Okay.
should be
So
about 21,000 coming. Yep.
Yeah, we're still waiting on a MPCA permit, but other than that,
And they did the walkthrough.
they did the
today.
walkthrough today with
For the
with
cars.
Brett, Brian, and the Stan Tech geologist. Did the walkthrough today to find more sinkholes.
Did they find any?
Anything?
I don't know. I hope not.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? All in favor, say good night. I mean, A,
Aye.
aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for us? We're
Motion
adjourned.
to adjourn.
I have one motion that I did not have a second. Oh, the new generations. Well, Jesse moved motion to.
Second.
Sagan seconded?
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I got. Okay.
Yeah, let's start having them all at 9 o'clock.
Our parliamentarian at Minnesota, state auditor, told me that in Robert's rules, parliamentary rules, the second doesn't have to be named in the court.
Oh, really?
If a second is made, it's good.
Second is good. It doesn't matter.
Robert rules also changed now that doesn't have any motion to adjourn.
See, no, I never have had a motion for that.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
make sure we have one.
I thought you.
I'm just carrying on.
Is that not correct?
I don't think there's anything else that needs to be discussed.
That we did with
Okay.
Jeremy and Purcell.